Is Sunday's Lightcone or E1 more worth it? Well, they both have their both benefits, and we're going to go through how they specifically benefit certain characters more than others, and maybe which one is better for your account in particular. Now, the Lightcone of Sunday. One of the most amazing Lightcones to come out in a while. Let's go over the ability. Whenever the wearer uses a skill or ultimate on one ally character, the wearer is going to regenerate 6 energy, which means that every time Sunday advances, every time he uses his ultimate on one character, he's going to be getting that 6 energy. So around 24-ish at the end by the time he's going to get his next ult up. Now, there's a couple of problems, which is when you're getting a signature Lightcone, you really want to see, is this usable on other characters as well? And when it comes to what we've got, unfortunately, out of the Harmony characters, not too many of them are single buffing, right? We've got Sparkle, which is going to buff with the skill, right? But not the ult because it's AoE. Robin's nothing. Ron May's nothing. Bronya will work with the skill, but that's just about it. And as for this, Tingyan might be the only character that can actually value or benefit from this Lightcone because she is pure single target on her ult and single target on her skill. Now, the second part of the Lightcone is every time you use that skill or ultimate, you're going to get 1 stack up to 3, and these stacks last for 3 turns, so pretty much unlimited uptime once you actually get it. You're going to be getting 15 damage percent stacking up to 3 times, which is 45% damage bonus. Now, that's pretty crazy. If we compare it to the beginning, the first Lightcone we got that was around this similar type of thing, right? We've got 30% damage bonus here, and this is only for 1 turn. So just comparatively, this is a pretty damn good power crept version of Bronya's Lightcone if we consider the damage bonus, the skill points, and the energy. It's literally every aspect of Bronya's Lightcone, just a little bit better. Now, the E1 for Sunday is where things get a little bit interesting. Now, I haven't seen too many E1s that read this good just by staring at it, but Jesus Christ. When Sunday uses his skill, the target can ignore 16% defense, and then their summon can ignore 40% defense. Now, this is going to last for 2 turns. Really quickly, one of the things that stick out to me with this Eidolon is that even though Sunday is kind of like a single turn advancer, it's not in the same way that Bronya or Sparkle is, because Sparkle is going to allow the follow-ups to get buffed, let those buffs last until their next turn. Bronya only lasts 1 turn. But the way Sunday works, even with his skill, is that all the buffs are going to last for 2 turns. That means that if you're using a 135, 134 setup with, let's say, for example, Boot Hill coming before Sunday, that means that we can actually benefit from both buffs on both of his turns, right? And that is pretty massive when we're considering certain team comps, especially something like a Boot Hill, or really any DPS that's going to go twice, because now they're both going to be buffed from the skill and the E1 if we choose to get it. Now, the second part of this is a little bit ridiculous, if we're being honest, because 40% Def Shred is crazy. I mean, that is 2 Eidolons worth, because if we just look Ron May's E1, that's a 20% Def Shred, and that's not even unconditional, because when the ult disappears, you don't get that. So 40% is crazy. Now, clearly, at this point in time, the only character that we have that can really take advantage of this is our general, if I'm able to find him. I am not able to find him. He doesn't exist. It is Jing Yuan, right? Jing Yuan, with his summon, with his Lightning Lord, is going to be able to benefit from not only that extra Def Shred, but also the extra damage bonus in Sunday's kit that only works for servants. What this means is, the more servant characters or summon characters come out in the future, the more beneficial that E1 is going to be by miles, Now, Sunday is already one of the best character when it comes to buffing summons, and is in a class of his own. But the question is if you get the E1 or the Lightcone for Sunday, how does it benefit the current existing DPSs that we've got? So, if we look at the Lightcone, how can we benefit from the skill points and the energy that he gets? Well, this is going to allow him to pretty much be a skill point generator while consistently skilling, which is very, very big. Very, very big. Even if we use him with Boot Hill, let's say. I use Boot Hill as a lot of my examples just because he's my favorite character, pretty much. But if we're consistently skilling, even with a character like Boot Hill, who skills a lot, right? We're actually gaining skill points while using Sunday, right? This is just base. Of course, this is with the Lightcone. The E2 is going to give more skill points, but this isn't the video about the E2. This is about E1 versus the Lightcone. Now, the damage bonus is going to be not necessarily the best for break DPSs. However, if we're talking about break DPSs, let's go through Firefly, Boothill, and Rappa, right? All three of these characters are pretty much going to benefit from this def shredding Bronya if we go for the E1, because now we're going to be able to get that consistent def shred on all of our breaks, which is very, very massive. If we go for the Lightcone for break teams in specific, right, we're going to be benefiting from the skill points. The damage percent is useless, so at this point, the only thing we're getting is skill points and energy. Are there other options that we can choose that kind of make up for that skill point and energy, but then we're still able to get those buffs from the E1, not to mention how good they're going to be for summons in the future. Now, his secondary Lightcone options are pretty similar, because at the end of the day, all we're really looking for is a little bit of energy regen, and other than that, not much else. We could even go Dance 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 if we wanted to, but Bronya's Lightcone is going to be a great option. If not, we can choose to pick the Battle Pass Lightcone. If not, we can pick the Pass in the Future, pretty much the 4-star version of Bronya's Lightcone. At the end of the day, Bronya's Lightcone, Dance Dance Dance, this Battle Pass Lightcone, and this, they're all going to be fine on Sunday. You're not really going to feel like you're missing out on too much, except for those skill points from the second or the third part of his Lightcone. That is where the skill point positivity of him comes out, because he'll never be skill point positive without his Lightcone, only if you're using your skill on the beatified consistently, but at that point you're always going to be neutral. You're never going to be gaining anything. Now, if we go back to Sunday's Eidolon, right, I want to see if this E1 looks so good. I mean, how is this comparable to some of the best E1s that we've got on other Harmony characters, right? Or maybe even Nihility characters for that matter. You know, Zhao is still there, right? We've got Robin. The E1 of Robin is going to be a 24 consistent res pen during Concerto, which is one of the best E1s, period, and that's just pretty damn good. Now, if we're going to compare this without summons, right, this is going to be better than Sunday's E1 by a good bit, especially because this is team-wide. If we're considering other E1s like Ron Mays, this 20% def shred is going to be, I'm actually going to say on par. No, I take it back. It is a little bit better because this is all allies. This is buffing everybody. So this 20% def shred is going to be very, very good for the team, especially if you're going duo DPS. And I never actually mentioned duo DPS with Sunday. I do want to talk on that really quickly. The duo DPS capabilities of Sunday is actually not too terrible, because when you're using this talent, you can actually get 3 turns of crit rate. If you want to boost 2 characters, this is going to be a pretty long uptime of this massive crit rate buff. And then when you're using your ultimate, you can actually you can use your ultimate on one character, right? And then if you want to, you can skill another character. You're not going to be getting the skill points back, but the point is that even though you're not tied into a particular play style where you have to play only one way, the only thing that really locks Sunday, which I really, really don't like and is kind of sad, is that he cannot advance Harmony characters. That is the one downside of his kit, and that is the one biggest downside of his kit. His second biggest downside, I'll tell you guys right now, is actually his base speed. His base speed being 96 compared to Bronya's 99 compared to Sparkle's 101. That is a little bit depressing, considering that you're going to need 5 extra speed points just to match Sparkle, and that is going to hurt a little bit when you're going for these hyper speed Sunday setups. That's why usually I go 2-piece speed. Now, what if we want to primarily use Sunday without summons, right? So let's say we're only going to be taking advantage of this 16% def shred, and we have to choose between either the Lightcone or the E1 for, let's pick different characters other than Break this time. This time, let's go for some of our top DPSs, right? We've got Acheron, we've got Fei Xiao, and let's just say Imbibitor, Dr. Ratio. Let's say Dr. Ratio. So, Dr. Ratio in particular is going to be very, very, very good with Sunday. And why do I say this? It's because there are certain DPSs who really benefit from Ting Yun. I mean, it is noticeable when you do not run Ting Yun on the team, right? Yun Li in particular, you really, really like Ting Yun. Dr. Ratio, you really like Ting Yun because you like popping all those chalks on the non-primary target. Not having to put Ting Yun in the team, but still having Ting Yun in the team with Sunday is so unbelievably good. I mean, look at this. We're looking at a max energy of 140. Now with Sunday, this gets taken down to 100. Let's just say 95, right? That's 3 skills. That's 1 kill. That's a couple of follow-ups. I mean, we're looking really, really good when it comes to energy. And that is just so massive. What characters are going to benefit from energy this much, to the point where if you don't need skill points, you can actually go for the E1, take advantage of the def shred, and just be an unbelievably buffed character from this really, really crazy hyper carry buffer. So at the end of the day, E1 or Lightcone, right? I really think it actually depends on the team because I think both have tremendous, tremendous value. The Lightcone, unbelievable. One of the craziest Lightcones and so comfortable. I mean, I said that kind of weirdly, but genuinely one of the most comfortable Lightcones I've ever had because having an action advancer that's actually getting you skill points, it's somewhat better than Sparkle, which is a very weird to say, but I genuinely feel the same way I feel with Sparkle, but I'm getting much more out of the buffs, and it only gets better with summons. It only gets better with summons. Of course, E2 Sparkle is a different character in of her own because the Eidolons with Sparkle are damn good, but the Eidolons on Sunday are also damn good as well, so it's a little bit of a tough comparison there, tough competition, but let's really quickly decide. Lightcone or E1? I will pick. I'm going to pick Lightcone. The reason I'm going to pick Lightcone is because it opens up team options and allows for more choices for you to pick. You can pick more skills, pick more basics if you want. You have more options instead of being locked into having to basic if you're running into those skill point problems. Now, some teams, that's never going to be an issue. If you're using a Gallagher with a Sunday without his Lightcone, you're probably never going to run into skill point issues. If you're using some Pelas, if you're using maybe a Zhao, any character that can consistently basic is going to make it no problem. But if you want a team that's skilling a ton, particularly duo DPS teams maybe, then as long as it's not Jade, for example, or like a Blade, then the Lightcone is going to be really, 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 really good. And then the 45% damage bonus is still going to be great. However, you've got to consider that that 45% damage bonus is useless if you're maining break characters, or technically if you guys want to say maybe like Acheron and Fei Xiao too, because their ultimates don't benefit from the energy. They still work very well with Sunday because of the tremendous amount of buffs, not to mention the 20 crit rate. 20 crit rate, ridiculous, right? But of course, the more summons come out, the better Sunday gets. Now, if you're using a team that doesn't need too many skill points and benefits from Death Shred, then Sunday's E1 is so good right now and only gets better in the future. I mean, just insanely better. I feel like I've said this 10 times, but it's just crazy looking at that 40% Death Shred number. It really is ridiculous. Now, if we've got defense reducing characters, the E1 is going to be very, very valuable. If we're stacking E1 Ron Mei, if we're using, let's say, Boot Hill's Lightcone, if we're using Firefly doesn't really shred, but if we're using the Super Break with the Cavalry, that's going to be 25 Death Shred right there. So we're going to be stacking Death Shred, always good. If we're using Pela on the team, that's going to be even more Death Shred. If we're using Acheron, right? If we're using Nihility characters, we're going to be probably using Pela, maybe Gwenaifen, maybe some Resolution Lightcones, more Death Shred, more power. Very, very nice. Black Swan, she's going to be reducing the defense of the enemies a ton when she's using her Arcana stacks or when she's dealing her damage, so beneficial there. Interestingly enough, Fei Xiao's Lightcone giving 54% Death Shred. That's going to make us go up to 70%. You know, might not be the best, but it's really, really good. Actually, I don't know why I said it's not the best. It's damn good. It's damn good considering that it's a better Bronya with more buffs. Although the damage bonus, you're going to be getting a little bit less damage bonus from the skill of Bronya. The skill of Sunday versus Bronya with no summon, 66 versus 30%. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Now, as for the other characters, what else do we've got Death Shred? Maybe the Quantum set on Jade. E1 would help there. No summons, of course. Quantum, similar. Rappa. You know, I really like the Rappa teams with Sunday. Very, very fun. You know, more Death Shred, not too much Death Shred. And as for the 4-star DPSs, you know, Luca and Sunday is going to be really fun to play with. I gotta play around with that. That's going to be super good because his ult cost is way too high, and that energy is really, really, really going to help. As for other DPSs, Misha, I mean, come on, it's Misha. E1 on Misha. The E1 of Sunday on Misha is going to be great pairing with his E4, E2, I don't even know what it is, E2, even more Death Shred. You're going to use this with Pela. You're going to get 56. You're going to get 72. You're going to get 90, 88. You're going to get 88, 86% Death Shred total with a Pela, with a Sunday, and a Misha. That's going to be absolutely ridiculous. And we got a few other DPSs, but not too much. More Quantums, and that's it. So, at the end of the day, it is your guys' decision, and I'm curious to see what you guys are leaning towards, E1 or his Lightcone. His Lightcone, one of the craziest options, synergistic, comfort. E1, just some of the most potential in an Eidolon I've ever seen. But they're both so good that you can't go wrong picking either one. You really can't. You won't be missing the other one. You might be missing the other one if you don't get it, but that's just because of how good they both are. So you can't do much about that. Anyways, thanks for watching. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, join the Discord, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.